Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. The Energy Minister predicts an oil boom in Trinidad and Tobago with unprecedented levels of oil and gas found in reserves. In excess of 100 students commenced classes at the Drilling Academy in Eugene St. Madeleine aimed at enhancing our skilled labor resources. And the Institute of International Education collaborate and share innovative promises to bolster funding opportunities for local NGOs. Thank you for joining us. Unprecedented levels of oil and gas are expected to be found in reserves around Trinidad and Tobago, which will propel this country's economy to new levels of prosperity. The statement was made by Energy and Energy Affairs Minister, Senator the Honourable Kevin Ramnarine, who disclosed the information during the orientation ceremony held for students entering the National Energy Skills Centre's Drilling Academy.
Energy Minister Kevin Ramnarine is predicting another oil boom for Trinidad and Tobago. Speaking to students at the NESC Drilling Academy, the minister says current drilling by international oil and gas giants looks promising for TNT's energy future.
There is right now exploration on an unprecedented scale taking place around the country. Almost every side of Trinidad and Tobago, the north coast, the south coast, the west coast and the east coast is being subject to exploration activity as we speak. And I want to go on record as saying that I believe that under this Ministry of Energy and under this government, we have planted the seeds of the next oil boom in Trinidad and Tobago. That will not materialize tomorrow, it will materialize in years to come.
Making this possible is changes occurring in the regulatory framework that governs investors entering the local energy market. Minister Ramnarine says this is expected to result in a tapping into energy reserves that can carry Trinidad and Tobago well into decades to come.
BHP Billiton, looking at the two-dimensional seismic for Block 5, have identified a structure which is 3 times larger than their major producing oil fields in the Gulf of Mexico. And that is what they're looking for. That is what they're looking for off our East Coast right now. And that we expect to be oil. And hopefully it's oil, because natural gas is not as valuable as oil. And if that were to be discovered, that is going to change the landscape of this country for all time. We could end up in a situation where if that is discovered, we double or triple the size of the economy in the next 10 years.
He notes that currently, while government is working on creating a gas master plan that will seek the maximizing of natural gas reserves, this will also assist in propelling TNT's revenue earnings.
By the year 2025, we believe that the natural gas levels of natural gas production that we have today will hold well into the year 2025. It's very difficult to see beyond 2025 and to make predictions. But that therefore means that the level of prosperity that our country has today will at the very least continue into the middle part of the next decade.
Kimberam Calawan, News 4.
Meanwhile, the first batch of students to enroll at the NESC Drilling Academy located at Eugene St. Madeleine got a warm welcome during their school's orientation. In excess of 100 students commenced their studies at the academy this week.
It's the first day of school at the NESC Drilling Academy for these students. And while their eager minds anticipate learning all that's needed to earn a career in the oil and gas industry, they are also the first cohort of students to enroll at the academy. Tertiary Education Minister Fazal Karim, in welcoming them, urged the students to use their time wisely while at the academy and value their training.
Today, we begin with 100 trainees. And 100 days from today, I wish to be back to see your progress. 100 days from today, I want the parents to come. It must be a parents' day. It must be a day of assessment and evaluation. It must be a day that you must find out how your child, your son or your daughter is doing. It must be an opportunity for you, while you do not have to wait on that. I'm just formalizing on that day to drop in and see the rate and the state of progress. So 100 years it has taken us to reach here. For 100 persons to be here, and I'll be back to meet the 100 in 100 days.
In years gone by, persons were sent to Houston, Texas to study drilling courses and return to the oil and gas fields here in Trinidad and Tobago to work. However, all of this has changed with the NESC's drilling school. For members of the service sector that lend support to energy-based companies, this means a wider pool of labor and skilled resources. Expressing the significance of this is President of the Energy Chamber of Trinidad and Tobago, Roger Parker.
This is an area where you have to learn it from bottom up. You must have the practical skills. You must learn the practical skills. So when you see that spread of equipment that is outside this facility, you must understand what each component does, why it does what it does, and you need to be able to physically pull it down, put it back together. So you have the theoretical training and you have the practical training. And you know, the jobs are out there. Our dream in years to come is long after oil and gas is no longer here in 100 years' time or whenever it runs out, that Trinidad and Tobago will have a large part of our population working around the world, internationally, and maybe we won't even miss the revenue from oil and gas because we are known to be the service sector providers, the drilling providers around the world.
Energy Minister Kevin Ramnaran, present to welcome the students into their new learning environment, explained the current labour landscape in Trinidad and Tobago and the relevance of their skills in the industry.
A lot of work has gone into making all this happen in the last 3 years. What has Roger pointed out, there is a global shortage of skilled people in the energy sector. And that is because in the late 1980s, there was a major downturn in this sector globally, and there was less emphasis on training and development of people. So there's now a shortage. And many people in companies like Petrotrin and so on are approaching 60 and are heading into retirement. And there is a thin middle in many companies in Trinidad and Tobago. So that's where you all come in.
Meanwhile, Minister Karam called on dormitory facilities to be constructed at the school's compound. He added that the NESC will be pursuing relations among the two major universities here in TNT, the University of the West Indies and the University of Trinidad and Tobago, to lend support to their geoscience students through the Drilling Academy.
I propose to look into the PSIP, the Public Sector Investment Program, and I'd like to recommend the construction of dormitories on this facility. I'm giving Mr. Khan a deadline of by or before the 1st of May 2015. I'll return to open your dormitory, which must have a minimum of 25 and a maximum of 50 rooms. So I'm giving you a request for dormitories of 50 rooms. And when Mr. Akwing comes in the future, I also want to attach to those dormitories executive rooms, at least 5 of them, for facilitators from abroad. When you come, you stay here. Since you're not charging us, we will not charge you.
The Drilling Academy is housed at a former site of the Transportation Field Engineering Department of the Carney 1975 Limited, located in St. Madeleine along the Manahambre Road, Naparima. Kimberam Calawan, News 4.
When we come back, we tell you all about Telecommunication and Information Society Day. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. On May 17th, the world celebrated World Telecommunication and Information Society Day. In Trinidad and Tobago, the Telecommunication Authority of Trinidad and Tobago led the celebration of the globally recognized day with the launch of an exciting community-oriented initiative.
World Telecommunication and Information Society Day is designed to raise awareness of the possibilities that the use of the Internet and other information and communication technologies, or ICTs, can bring to societies and economies. The theme for this year is Broadband for Sustainable Development and encourages the achievement of universal access to high-speed broadband networks. In this light, the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, TAT, is launching its initiative titled Using Broadband for Sustainable Development in Trinidad and Tobago. The project will see TAT give up to $40,000 to 5 organizations to develop initiatives which use broadband technology for sustainable development within their communities. Secretary General of the International Telecommunication Union, Dr. Hamadoun Toure, using broadband technology to deliver a video address at the project launch, says broadband technology plays a major role in the education and the development of individuals, which in turn leads to national development.
The right to communicate is central to the information society. It is a key principle for equitable and universal access to information and knowledge that in turn empowers people to meet their aspirations and achieve their development goals. Broadband connectivity is a critical element today in ensuring that information and communication technologies are used as effective delivery vehicles for health, education, governance, trade, and commerce in order to achieve sustainable socio-economic growth. ITU is therefore committed to achieving universal access to broadband connectivity and to foster the political will needed to achieve this objective.
Dr. Toure is urging all broadband technology stakeholders to work together to ensure a better future for the world.
Broadband-based ICT networks are powerful cross-cutting enablers to achieve the 3 pillars of sustainable development: economic growth, social inclusion, and environmental balance. I call upon our partners, governments, industry, academia, and technical experts to identify key gaps in broadband research and development, infrastructure, and package development of applications and services. Define policy priorities for action in the areas of allocating radio frequency spectrum for broadband, universal access obligations, and innovative financing mechanism, and to seek leading-edge technological solutions, particularly in the extension of broadband access into rural areas, least developed countries, and small island developing states. Let's put our resources together to harness the catalytic role of ICTs in achieving sustainable development. It is the key to ensuring a better future for all.
But as with everything, there is a negative side to be considered. Ms. Ingrid Siratan, Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Science and Technology, says although the broadband is an amazing and crucial piece of technology, parents and even the wider society should become familiar with the risks associated with the use of the technology.
It is essential to be cognizant of the fact that as new technologies have developed and the consumption of ICT services has grown in Trinidad and Tobago and worldwide, so too have new risks emerged. These risks include cybercrime, the posting of incorrect and inappropriate material on the internet, and include activities of this nature undertaken by minors, which poignantly raise moral and ethical problems and some degree of societal distress.
Non-governmental organizations will soon be invited to submit proposals for TAT's Community Broadband Initiative. The request for proposals would be advertised in daily newspapers within the next week. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
In other news, the Institute of International Education held a conference with the view of collaborating, sharing and innovating promises to be one that will bolster funding opportunities for Trinidad and Tobago NGOs. This was revealed at the TNT NGO Professionals Conference Program 2014 in partnership with Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors, which took place at the Hyatt Regency.
The Institute of International Education, IEE, was host to the 2014 TNT Non-Governmental Organization NGO Professionals Conference. This conference opened with a thought-provoking plenary session, The NGO Sector in the 21st Century Trinidad and Tobago, a Major Sleeping Giant, featuring a diverse group of civil society stakeholders, including donors and policymakers. Funded by the J.B. Fernandez Memorial Trust II in partnership with Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors, the two-day conference fell under the theme, Fund Development, a key strategy for building sustainable NGOs. The conference brought together more than 100 professionals from NGOs, civil society, community-based and faith-based organizations in Trinidad and Tobago, to network, share challenges and best practices in non-profit management. It also heard from experts on how to create a plan for strategic fund development. This year marks the third year for sponsoring civil society sector events in Trinidad and Tobago, and the event proved very timely, as NGOs worldwide seek to identify new funding sources and the strengthening of relationships. NGO professionals attending the 2014 conference engaged in dynamic conference sessions, plenaries, breakouts, and unique networking opportunities with civil society peers and donors. Conference sessions and breakouts focused on helping organizations objectives to TNT NGO Professional Conference 2014, geared towards develop strategic funding plans, identifying sustainable funding opportunities, crafting successful grant proposals, building stronger relationships with funders. In addition, the conference explored 3 areas of non-profit management that are critical for organizations to successfully raise funds: financial management, accountability and transparency, and demonstrating impact. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
Thank you very much, Joseph. News 4 continues right after the break. Stay with us. The Trinidad and Tobago Football Association insists that another protracted legal battle over funds owed to members of the 2006 Soca Warriors will only serve to harm football and has called for patience. News 4 Sports' Wayne Cunningham spoke to TTFA President Raymond Timke, and he outlined the association's position.
His Worship, the Mayor of Port of Spain and Trinidad and Tobago Football Association President, Mr. Raymond Timke, was not a happy man as he responded to recent pronouncements by some members of the 2006 World Cup squad.
I was somewhat taken aback when I saw that release on the newspaper. Taken aback because everyone knows we have no money. Everyone knows that we have been endeavoring to source funds. And we have not yet succeeded. Quite apart from the government involvement with treating with teams directly. The whole story is that, as you would recall, as most people will recall, the old TTFF had made a decision not to pay that bonus. I came into office subsequent to that decision, and my position was that it was a promise, and I don't intend going forward unless I took care of things that obtained in the past, especially those things that were vexatious as settlement of bonuses and promises.
Mayor Timke gave an idea of the financial burden facing the new football administration.
I did not quite understand the volume of creditors until I came back to Trinidad and we went into doing our own audits and looking at all the IOUs and so on. And from us, all the payables we had. And we put those things together. And at that time, we found around 25 million TT dollars. And of course, there were creditors who started to write after and made claims which we double-checked and to ensure it was authentic. And the final figure was over 28 million TT dollars.
According to Mr. Timke, the first bit of revenue received from CONCACAF was directed to the Soca Warriors, despite empty coffers, and some hefty sums were doled out before that.
The players they all got in their qualifying games. They were well compensated. We are talking about an average of $3,000 to $5,000 a game per player. And when we had crossed that qualifying line, the government then gave each player $1 million. And when they started the actual exercise in Germany, that went up even further than the average $3,000 to $5,000.
The timing of this latest attack also has the football administrator thinking.
let me see, I found it quite curious that that issue could be raised at this time when we are in preparation for playing one of the world's top teams on their way to the World Cup competition in Brazil. Here it is that under what condition would you normally play against a team like Argentina, as they have finished almost their preparation for a World Cup, and of course they want to be world winners, and of course they expect to be up among the top 3 teams in the world. Trinidad, with 1.2 million people and a very small marketplace, very limited financial resources, could be invited by Argentina to play against Argentina. Something must have been done that was right and correct. I found that it was thoughtless and rather injurious to our country. When issues like these could be raised to the point where it's in a national marketplace, international marketplace. And I do not know what the intentions are, but it's ugly, reprehensible, and it's something that I completely reject. And every sports-minded Trinidadian ought to frown on that behavior.
Mr. Tim Key insisted that the debt will be paid, but he is not pleased with a 14-day threat to shut down football in Trinidad and Tobago.
Football doesn't belong to them, neither does it belong to me. But hear this well. I do not submit to threats. I do not submit to intimidation. And deadline, that 14-day deadline, that's for the birds. They will have to deal with that 14-day however they can. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. We have nothing. So then, what are we expected to do?
Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
Thank you very much, Wayne. News 4 continues right after the break. Stay with us. Caribbean Airlines, one of the region's top carriers, continues to do well on the international market. As the airline launched its spring promotions, News 4 joined customers in learning of the great deals there are to take advantage of.
There are many citizens who've never ventured beyond Trinidad and Tobago's shores, which means that they've never experienced the pleasure of a plane ride. Well, Caribbean Airlines is making it easier for you to go to your dream destination with its many deals and discounts. On Saturday, the national carrier came to Gulf City Mall, San Fernando, where customers had the pleasure of understanding and being engaged with the many offers that CAL has. News 4 spoke to Senior Marketing Manager at CAL, Alicia Cabrera, who gave an overview of the airline's presence at Gulf City Mall.
We're offering a vacation. It's spring into vacation. It's a great time to travel to any of our destinations. And basically, once you participate, by springing to the destination of choice, you can win tickets to North America or any of the Caribbean destinations that we fly to.
Aside from the fact that we should be patriotic and support our national carrier, the marketing manager explained another important reason why we should travel with Caribbean Airlines. Why should we fly with Caribbean Airlines?
We understand you better than anyone else. In terms of our product, it's all-inclusive. We know when you're going to a destination, you want to go with your bags. You don't want the hassle to be paying and whatnot, which is what the other carriers are basically positioning themselves as. Our meals are the best. You know that. You can get curry, your pepper, everything on board. And our focus is really on the safety of our passengers, and we deliver the warmth of the islands.
The major attraction at the booth that caused quite a stir and drew the crowds in was the Spring Into Action game, where patrons had to jump on 3 North American destinations to qualify. Once successful, they would fill out an entry form in hopes of their name being called to redeem a return ticket to any North American destination. We then moved over to the cargo table, where we learned about more products and services offered by CAL.
What we are doing, we are highlighting our cargo product, and many people do not really know that we operate a freighter service between Miami, Barbados, Trinidad, and Guyana, and also Jamaica. So we are trying to get the public aware that that is something that we offer as an airline. So if you want to ship between Miami and Trinidad, which most people in this territory will want to do, either going up to Miami or into Trinidad, from Miami into Trinidad, then you can use our freighter service.
Caribbean Airlines prides itself for its strategic route selection, which is customer determined.
We do our research, definitely. For example, we have increased our frequency into South Florida, and that's because there's a demand there. People love to go to South Florida, Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, as well as Miami International. When we added the frequency to Orlando, it was amazing, and it's based on demand. We would not go to a destination unless there is a demand. Similar recent destination that we added, and the route is doing pretty well, is London. And again, it's based on the diaspora, where they're positioned. That's why we expand, based on the need.
And lastly, what is some of the feedback you've received from not only nationals of Trinidad and Tobago, but all persons, all customers of Caribbean Airlines over the years?
Generally, it's the warmth. You feel at home as soon as you step on board. And that's really the main reason that people fly with us, familiar faces and smiling faces on board.
Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Well, good luck to Nikolai on winning that trip. I hope he knows that the entire newsroom will be going with him. Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 Report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. Now, remember, you can view a repeat of our newscast weekdays at 6 a.m. and feel free to visit our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/RTV4. I am Nicola Barreto. Thank you for joining us.